Good day to all. We are now to discuss Module 1 of the Weighted Average Cost of Capital, or WACC. So basically, the topics here are introduction until the capital structure. Go to the first slide. So as an introduction, when you speak of weighted average cost of capital, so the definition is that it is related to financing. So it is the cost of obtaining funds. Even though if it's a financing activity, it is related to investing activity because WACC is used primarily for investing activities. Remember our discussion in capital budgeting, which is investing activity, use WACC there. Okay? Next slide. Next is on the decision process involving WACC. Basically, we will be discussing here the three decisions to be made by the financial manager, mainly investing, financing, and operating. Before we go to the corporate setup, we'll make an analogy on a personal setup or personal finance. In a personal finance, which do you think is the first decision, or what is the arrangement? Okay? For personal finance, it's financing, investing, operating. For example, you want to buy a cell phone, a Samsung S8. What's the first thing that you need to do? You need money. So either you borrow money, you get money, or you hihiram ka, hihingi ka ng pera, o mag-iipon. Okay? Next is on the investing activity. You buy the actual cell phone. And last is the operating. So you can make, after buying the cell phone, you can make some changes. You buy accessories, you buy screen protector, and you buy new casing. And of course, one of the major expenses in buying a new cell phone, or even if it's not a new cell phone, is the payment for the loan, either postpaid or prepaid. So you can see that in a personal finance, it's investing first, or rather financing, then investing, then operating. However, in a corporate setup, it's very difficult to apply that concept. Why? Because if you raise money, meaning you receive cash in exchange for bonds or equity securities, so debit cash, credit, bonds payable, or common stock, you have a cost. You need to pay for interest. And of course, dividends, although it's not required, you're not obligated unless you have retained earnings. You need to pay for the cost. If you will not use the money to invest and earn a rate of return, then you cannot cover the cost. So, sayang lang, meron kang cost, di mo naman na gagamit. So basically, in corporate finance, what's the setup? First thing that you need to do is, you look for investment. Okay? What are the possible investment opportunities? What are the projects available? A, B, C, or D. Next thing that you need to do is to determine your cost of capital or your WACC. After determining the WACC, then you can decide to accept the project or not. Okay? So we use the capital budgeting concepts that we've studied in MS. Later, we'll be discussing through the details of that. Next is the first decision involving cash. You raise the actual cash. So there's a cash inflow. You debit cash. And the next is investing or financing. You credit your cash. Either you invest in any asset like property, plant and equipment, investment in debt, equity securities, in subsidiary, and so on. And lastly, you have your cash inflow, outflow related to the day-to-day activities or operations. Collection of AR or sales, payment for purchases, accounts payable, or expenses. If you look at it, the last three activities are the activities related to your personal finance. So these are the activities involving cash flows. So yeah, yung huling tatlo, yun yung related sa personal finance. But basically, in corporate finance, you need the first three. Okay? Next is on the importance or uses of weighted average cost of capital. So basically, we will be discussing three importance or significant use of WACC. First is I think the most familiar with you because we have discussed this in your MS sa pinakamahirap na subject, capital budgeting. So basically, we use WACC in NPV and IRR. So I will go to the details of that later, just to review. Next is on valuation of stocks. So in our financial management 1 last term, we discussed the corporate valuation model. Remember, in a corporate valuation model, the formula of computing for the stock price is we need first to get the first portion is the market value of the company or the firm. Using the constant growth model or similar model with a constant growth, but we applied in a corporate setup is the free cash flow divided by the WACC minus your growth rate in free cash flows. And then lastly, I think this is the most unfamiliar to you, medyo hindi familiar kayo, is the use of valuation for mergers and acquisitions. Basically, it's DCF. Actually, number 1 and 2 are both DCF, because the concept of DCF is that you get use the concept of present value. You get the present value of the benefits in the form of cash flows. So basically, you do the as far as I can remember, according to because my wife's work is related with mergers acquisitions. You can do a pre or post valuation. So before buying. Before company buys a certain, we call that another company or target company, and after, just to check. Okay, next is what's the relationship of WACC with capital budgeting? You already have an idea on this because we've discussed this in our MS, but we will review or look at the details. First, what is related to the financing investing, right? So it involves the accounting equation. So when we invest or when the investing or financing activity, so what happens to our assets? The left side of the equation, so the assets will increase. Same with your debt and equity, it will also increase. Remember, when you increase your debt and equity, so debit, cash, credit, common stock, or bonds payable, you have a cost. You need to pay for interest, and although it is not required, you need also to give dividends, so you have a cost. Okay? So what happens is that the cost there, the cost of capital is your WACC, and then what you need to do is to look at the asset portion. Hopefully that the investment in those assets will earn a rate of return higher than the cost or the WACC, okay, for the project to be accepted. That's your IR method, one of the DCF methods in capital budgeting. The next is, of course, these assets entail costs. So there is a cash outflow. That's what you call the cost of investment. And then what do you do with these assets? You project their cash flows or the benefits. You quantify them. You get the present value using a certain discount rate. That discount rate that we are using for the NPV is your WACC. So that's what you call. And hopefully that the present value of the benefits or cash flows will be greater than the cost of investment. That is your NPV. So again, to summarize, what's the role or what's the involvement of WACC in capital budgeting? In IRR, this is the cost of capital or the rate in which you compare the IRR. The higher the IRR, then you accept the project. And for the NPV, so it is the discount rate used to get the present value of the cash flows benefit. You compare that with the cost of investment, the higher present value for cash flows or benefit, then you accept the project. Okay, next we go to our WACC formula. As you can see in the image that I have placed, so you can see there the computation. So just a slight difference in the actual formula that I will be showing to you. So our WACC, weighted average cost of capital, is computed by getting the weights. So WD times, that's the weight of debt, times RD, the interest rate, times 1 minus tax rate. So we will go to the details of that. Why do we need to deduct a portion with the tax rate? Plus the weight of the preferred stock times the return on the preferred stock or cost of preferred stock, plus the weight of the common stock times the rate of return on the common stock or cost of common stock. So you can see here the weights. So there are variables. The D, that's the market value of debt. V, C is the market value of common stock. P is the market value of preferred stock. And then the total of the three is the V, or the total market value of the entity. Okay? So as I mentioned, so WD is the weight of the debt, WP weight of preferred stock, WC weight of the common stock. And then for the letters, D is for the market value of debt, P for the preferred stock, C common stock, and V is for the total value. Okay? Then the RD is the interest rate. It's the for the debt. Okay, you apply tax, so the after-tax cost of debt is times 1 minus tax rate. So RP is the cost of preferred stock. Then for the cost of equity, we have two. We have the cost of internal equity and external equity. There is a certain slide to discuss the details of that. RS is for the cost of retained earnings, internal equity. RE or R sub E, to distinguish it from RE, retained earnings. R sub E is the cost of new common stock. Next is the sample application of the formula. So we have a given problem. So the market value for debt is 15 million, common stock is 25 million, preferred stock is 10 million. The interest rate is 5%, cost of preferred stock is 10%, cost of equity 15%, our tax rate is 30%. Given these information, what is the WACC? So we apply the formula, it's 30%. 30% is computed as the market value of debt, which is 15 million, divided by the total of the three market values, 15, 25, and 10, that's 50 million. So 15 million divided by 50 million, 30%, times 5%, interest rate, times 1 minus 30%. Then 20% is the weight of the preferred stock, which is 10 million over 50 million, times 10%, the cost of preferred stock, plus 50% weight of the common stock. That's 25 million divided by 50 million times 15%. The cost of equity, you get 10.55%. Did you get the same in your group when you answered this similar problem? Okay, very good. Now we'll be discussing the capital structure. In the WACC formula, it pertains to the percentages, the weight of debt, preferred stock, common stock. That's why, so capital structure pertains to the proportion of your debt, preferred stock, and common stock. So I think this is one of the most important parts or slides of this module. So we need to get the best capital structure. We call that the optimal capital structure. So what is, or how do we describe the optimal capital structure? It is a capital structure which will maximize the shareholder value. On more specific terms, it will maximize the stock price, and at the same time, it will minimize our WACC, or the cost of capital. So how can these concepts, maximize shareholder value, maximize stock price, and minimize WACC, go together? We'll be using those concepts and knowledge that you learned in our valuation of stocks. That is the last topic for FinOne. First is the DDM, or dividend discount model. I need a little bit of your imagination here because I cannot show you the formula. I'll just describe them. Okay? For the dividend discount model, the computation of the cost of equity, or RS, using the Gordon model is RS equal to your D1, or expected dividend, over your stock price plus the growth rate. As you can see, if you have, using that formula, if you have a higher stock price, you'll get a lower R sub S, or cost of equity, or rate of return on equity. So a lower cost of equity used in WACC will give you a lower WACC. And then for the CVM, or the corporate valuation model, using the similar model in constant growth model, when we compute for the market value of the firm, that is the free cash flow as your numerator divided by your WACC minus your growth rate in free cash flow. As you can see there, if you have a lower WACC in the denominator, it will have a higher effect. You'll get a higher market value of the firm. Higher market value of the firm will give you a higher market value of the equity, hence a higher stock price. So as you can see the relationships of these three using the two models. A higher value will give you a higher price and a lower WACC, or cost of capital. Next, about the capital structure is the current capital structure. What is the current capital structure? This is basically the capital structure, the portion of your liabilities and equity that can be seen in your balance sheet. Balance sheet is your historical amounts. Okay? The question is the current capital structure the same with the optimal capital structure? The answer is no. Because optimal capital structure considers other factors which will give you the ultimate goal, which is shareholder value. But can the current capital structure be the same with the optimal capital structure? The answer is definitely yes. On the assumption that your current structure, the structure in your balance sheet, is your optimal, based on the criteria of the company in determining its optimal capital structure. Next, still on the capital structure, we go deeper about the capital structure. So, what is our hierarchy in determining which values or which percentages to be used for the capital structure? The first thing, theoretically speaking, it's a target capital structure. So, probably there are criteria which the company can set to determine its target capital structure. If no target capital structure is given, especially problems, then you can use the capital structure or the percentages of debt, preferred stock, or common stock based on their market values. Specifically, how do you get the market value, or an example in getting the market values. So, there are valuation models, the DCF and others. But plain simple way of doing this is to, for the equity, you get the shares, number of shares outstanding times the stock price. You call that the market capitalization. For debt, you can get the present value of the cash flows using DCF, the one that we've learned in the valuation of bonds. Also, you can use the market quotation, right? There are bonds are quoted at 109% or 95% of the face value. You can also use that as your market value of debt. And lastly, if you don't have the target and market values, the last is the book values. So you get the values in the balance sheet, you get the percentages of that, then you get the weights. For the preferred stock, you get the par value. For the common stock, you get the par value, the APIC or share premium, and retained earnings. So you add the three, that will be the book value of the common stock. And for debt, basically, what is recorded in the books as your debt is your book value. Another important concept about this one is what amounts should be included in the capital structure. Basically, we include only long-term sources. Equity is long-term, debt, long-term debt. So because we are focused on investor-supplied funds, meaning we're focused on the funds that we raise from the investors that we will be using for investment to purchase the assets. Okay? So what then is the status, or how do we treat current liabilities? So basically, or in general, current liabilities are excluded, specifically accounts payable and accruals, because they are not investor supplied. APs come from your credit from your suppliers or vendors. For accruals, your accruals pertaining to your service providers, accruals of utilities, rent, and the others. Okay. However, we look into some treatments by other authors, my good friends Brigham, Gitman, and Brealey. So from time to time I talk with them. Okay, just kidding. First is on the other current liabilities. Okay, what does Brigham say? Okay, you can also read this in our reference text, that short-term interest-bearing notes, current portion of long-term debts. These are current liabilities, but are included in the computation of the capital structure, specifically the percentage of debt. Okay? And then for Brealey, the point of view of Brealey is that you include only those demanded by the investors. Of course, accounts payable and accruals are out. However, he is specific that in certain cases, if it is clear that the short-term debt is used to finance the long-term investment, which is our investing decision, or short-term debt is rolled over, meaning it will mature next year, but it will be rolled over the following year. So basically, it is long-term in nature now. It becomes permanent, so it is included in the percentage of debt. Okay? And then for Gitman, he didn't mention anything about the specifics of current liabilities or other current liabilities other than AP or accruals. He mentioned that all current liabilities are excluded. So we can assume, so it seems to appear that other current liabilities are also excluded in the computation of the weight of debt as for Gitman. Now we go to the sample illustrations. He will be answering some illustrations from the book. Okay. First is on question theory 10-3, page 359. So my suggestion is that you pause this for a short period, and then after you go back and resume to determine the answer. Okay? Okay, done. So the question here is, how should the capital structure weights used to calculate the WACC be determined? So we've discussed this in the previous slide. So first, you determine if there's a given target capital structure. So next, you get the percentages using the market values, if given or can be determined. And lastly, you use the book values, the amounts in the books. Okay? Next one is problem 10-9, page 360. Again, pause this for a short period of time. You read the given, the problem, the answer, and then you go back for the solution. Okay? Okay, done. So in this problem, so this is the solution. In this problem, you're given a balance sheet. Then you're given details such as the cost of equity, 16%, cost of before tax, so it's before tax cost of debt, 13%, tax rate is 40%. You're given the number of shares, 576, and 4 pesos stock price. You're asked to compute for the WACC. Important also is the statement that assume that the firm's long-term debt sells at par value. Okay, so this is our solution. First, for the D, we use the 1152. Why? Because it is stated that the firm's long-term debt sells for par value, meaning the par value is the same with the bond price. Question, if it is not written here, do we automatically use the book value, which is 1152? The answer is no. If there are indications that you can compute for the market value of bonds, probably you're given the interest rate and you're given the principal or the amount and the coupon payments, you can compute for the value of bond, valuation of bonds. Or if there is a market quotation that the bonds sell for this amount, you multiply that with the par value, you get the market value. It's not automatic, but based in the given problem, if it is not indicated, you can compute for market value of debt. So you use the book value of 1152. And for the common stock, you have the book value 1728, but you can compute for the market value using the market capitalization. You multiply 576 shares with 4 pesos, you get 2304. Then you get the total value, you add the two. The total value, market values of debt and equity is 3456. Then you get the weights, so 1152 divided by 3456, 33% for the debt, weight of debt. And for the equity, is 2304 divided by 3456, 66.67%. And for the WACC, we just apply the formula, 13% times 1 minus 40% times 33%, then plus 16% times 66.67%. Then you get the WACC is 13.27%. Did you get the same? Okay, very good.